lone hand has raised
Subversive.
up here. Actually, that is one more than I expected, I have to be honest. Fuck no. Sorry. We are uncensored, but oh my God, the idea there's any comparison between Diana, who was the biggest star in the world.
It all started the way these things always do. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. A strange little tremor online, barely noticeable at first. A cryptic post here, a comment there, and then, suddenly, boom.
Complicated relationship with social media, as you can probably imagine.
A Piers Morgan-sized detonation tears through social media like wildfire, setting the entire internet ablaze in seconds. This wasn't just another opinion. This was different. This was nuclear because this time Piers didn't just rant. He didn't tweet some jab or drop a tabloid take. No, this time he released something real, something raw, something no one had ever seen. A hidden interview.
Harry and Meghan, when their behavior became obnoxious, self-serving, and rankly hypocritical.
One that had never aired, never leaked, never even been hinted at, until now. Within hours, the ripple became a tidal wave. Newsrooms scrambled. Analysts perked up. YouTubers started uploading in real time. Because if what Piers claimed was true, that he had access to palace silence footage from years ago, then everything the public thought they knew about Meghan Markle might be about to unravel. And fast.
That there was a decision taken by the palace to stop Archie being a prince based on his potential skin color.
The moment that first clip surfaced, something strange happened. Meghan, usually composed under fire, reportedly lost control. As one insider bluntly put it, she didn't just go nuts, she detonated. Her team activated like a war room. Legal, PR, emergency calls. No one saw it coming, and that was the problem. Because what made this interview so dangerous wasn't what it said, it was what it implied. Piers had teased the reveal on X, claiming he'd stumbled across a cache of old recordings that the palace had quietly buried. Most people rolled their eyes. Some assumed it would be tame, maybe a few snarky outtakes or candid commentary from royal aides, but nobody expected this. The clip was grainy, time-stamped, unmistakably authentic. It showed Piers sitting across from someone whose voice was distorted and face fully masked. At first glance, it looked like nothing, but then the audio shifted. The filter faded just enough for a single sharp line to ring out 6 words. That's all.
Of the royal family or the monarchy, given that 2 of our most famous young royals have waged a 3-year war on the institution.
But they were enough to break the internet. She always said her plan was bigger than Harry. That was it. No names, no context, but anyone paying attention knew exactly who and what those 6 words were about. And just like that, the narrative Meghan had carefully crafted for years began to unravel. The humble love story, the reluctant duchess, the misunderstood outsider, all of it now stood under a glaring spotlight. And in the silence that followed those 6 words, the loudest noise came from online, where sleuths, experts, and skeptics began to dig.
With the media, everything that she does, they basically lambast the whole thing.
The internet didn't just react, it erupted. Within minutes, hashtags bigger than Harry was trending on X. Reddit threads exploded with speculation. Body language analysts went frame by frame. Voice decoders tried to strip the audio back to its original tone. Everyone, and I mean everyone, wanted to know who said it. Because whoever it was didn't just throw shade. They lit a match and dropped it right into the center of Meghan's castle of image management. And the public? They didn't run from the fire, they grabbed marshmallows and pulled up a seat. YouTubers ran voice comparisons against old clips. Podcast hosts pulled up footage from Meghan's time on Suits. Royal commentators reactivated long-dormant theories. Even tabloids, usually loyal to the Sussex narrative, began to shift their tone, ever so slightly. The real story wasn't just what had been said, it was why it was hidden. If this clip really had been suppressed by the palace, then what else had been scrubbed? What other parts of the narrative had been shaped, softened, or buried altogether? Suddenly, the question wasn't, is this real? It was why now, and who leaked it? Piers naturally only added fuel. He tweeted again, just one line, "There's more where that came from." That was all it took.
Oh, really? That feels odd to me.
Meghan's inner circle, once ironclad, started spinning into full panic. According to insiders, phones were ringing non-stop. Lawyers drafted emergency memos. Her crisis PR team, the same team that had weathered Oprah, Spotify, and endless press battles, found themselves scrambling. Not to explain the quote, but to contain it. Because here's the thing about narratives. Once they crack, they don't just break, they shatter. And Meghan knew it. This wasn't just about bad press or a hostile interview. This was different. This was someone from the inside, someone who knew her before the palace, before the podcasts, before the billion-dollar brand. Someone who wasn't supposed to be talking, someone who had clearly decided to break ranks. And in the world of royal media warfare, that kind of betrayal isn't just unexpected, it's catastrophic. As the clip made the rounds, one phrase echoed across the internet louder than the quote itself. She always said her plan was bigger than Harry. 6 words, yes. But beneath them lay a question that Meghan had spent years trying to avoid. Was this ever about love, or was it always about something more? Inside Meghan's team, panic wasn't a strong enough word, it was meltdown. Sources close to the situation say that within hours of the clip going viral, her crisis squad was mobilized like a government under attack. PR consultants, legal advisors, media managers, all summoned.
Okay.
This is a 2-hour trash-a-thon of our royal family, of the monarchy, of everything the Queen has worked so hard for, and it's all been done.
Screens lit up in every corner of her Montecito home. Laptops open, phones buzzing, group chats flooding with red alert messages. "We need to shut this down," she reportedly said. "We need to shut him down." But there was one problem. Piers Morgan doesn't back off. He doubles down. That same night, while Meghan's team scrambled behind the scenes, Piers went live on air with a smirk so smug it could have sold out theaters. He didn't shout, he didn't rant, he simply said, "You think that was the only recording?" Then he leaned forward, took a slow sip of tea, and added, "You think she told people the whole truth?" He didn't need to say more. The implication hit harder than any headline ever could. And Meghan, who has built an empire around controlling the narrative, knew instantly what that meant. She wasn't controlling anything anymore. And still the palace said nothing. Not a single official word, not even a leak to the usual sources close to the royals. Silence. Cold, calculated, terrifying silence. And in that silence, Meghan's team heard something worse than condemnation. They heard permission. Permission for the media frenzy to unfold. Permission for old allies to break ranks. Permission for the world to start asking uncomfortable questions again. Because if the palace had wanted to stop this, they could have. They always do. But this time, they stood back. Meanwhile, Meghan's lawyers started digging. Who signed what? Where were the NDAs? How did the footage resurface? Did the original producers still work at the network? Was there legal standing to force Piers to take it down? But this wasn't 2012. This was the age of the internet. Once something's out, it's out forever. Screenshots, re-uploads, mirrors, reaction videos, subtitles, podcasts. It was everywhere, and there was no clawing it back. And Meghan felt it. The walls closing in, not just from the media, from the inside, because once a clip like that drops, everyone in her past becomes a potential liability. Friends, ex-staff, old publicists, Hollywood acquaintances, even former allies. And if one person had flipped, who else might be next? Piers, sensing blood in the water, kept teasing more. "This was just one tape," he said. "One moment. One voice." Then he paused, smiled again, and said the words that made Meghan's entire team freeze. "Let's move to clip number 2. No warning, no buildup, just a hard cut to static." And then the second clip began. Same grainy camera, same shadowed figure. But this time the audio was sharper, clearer, almost deliberately so. You could hear every breath, every pause. And then just 5 seconds in, the bombshell dropped. She always said the goal wasn't to join the royal family. It was to outgrow them. Silence. Then chaos. Phones vibrated across newsrooms. Live chats exploded. Commentators froze mid-broadcast, eyes wide. It wasn't just a soundbite, it was a nuclear headline wrapped in a single sentence.
Nobody in Britain calls her that. Meghan Markle. You know, she got lucky, met her prince, dragged him out of the bosom of his family, dragged him away from the monarchy.
This wasn't a former staffer venting. This was someone who knew the plan. Someone who had heard Meghan say it firsthand. And that's when the internet did what the internet does best. It investigated. Within an hour, a tiny TikTok account with barely 3,000 followers posted a side-by-side comparison. Meghan's mystery clip versus an old panel discussion from years ago. The cadence, the phrasing, the way certain words were emphasized. Same voice, same speaker. And it wasn't just a guess. Voice analysis accounts backed it up. Forensic syncing proved the match. Twitter locked on within minutes. And then it happened. The name dropped. It wasn't just some distant colleague. It wasn't an angry journalist or a forgotten co-star. It was someone who had been there during Meghan's transition from actress to duchess, someone who helped shape her image, someone who had sat in rooms, drafted plans, whispered strategy, someone from her inner circle. And they had flipped. Within hours, major news outlets were reporting the identity. Headlines screamed betrayal. Piers didn't confirm it, he didn't have to. The damage was done. And for Meghan, this wasn't just a leak. It was a full-blown collapse, because now the public wasn't just questioning her narrative, they were questioning her past, her motives, her entire origin story. And worse, they were rooting for the other side. Behind the scenes, Meghan's team went into digital lockdown. Emails fired off, search engines monitored, legal drafts rewritten. Sources confirmed that calls went out to every former associate, every contact who might even think about speaking. And still, no response from the palace, no denials, no protections, not even a whisper of sympathy. And that silence? That was the loudest part of all. By morning, the headlines had stopped being headlines, they became warnings. Meghan's perfectly crafted public identity was being peeled back, layer by layer, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Her lawyers had already worked through the night, sending urgent inquiries to networks, producers, former staffers, anyone remotely connected to the unaired footage. But none of it mattered, because the internet had taken over. The story wasn't just viral anymore. It was untouchable, and that's when things got stranger. Somewhere in the middle of the digital chaos, Trevor Engelson's name popped back into the spotlight. Meghan's ex-husband, the one person from her pre-royal life who had remained almost ghost-like in his silence. He'd never given a statement, never sold a story, never appeared on a podcast. For years, people speculated, why was he so quiet? Why hadn't he cashed in? Why hadn't he spoken up? But now, with Piers Morgan's second clip circling every major platform, people started to notice something unusual.
I'm going to call this episode Between Two Flames.
Trevor hadn't said a word, but his Instagram told a different story. Comments, disabled. Activity, vanished. The moment the clip hit, he shut down his digital presence, and then quietly he went completely offline. And that silence, that made the internet roar even louder. Because Meghan knows exactly what Trevor could say, what he saw in the early days, what conversations they'd had, what ambitions she'd expressed back when the cameras weren't rolling and the crown was still a fantasy. She knows the moments, the private ones, that could now be twisted into the next viral clip. And for the first time in years, she didn't know who to call to stop it. Multiple sources confirmed it. Her team reached out to Trevor. Not for a friendly check-in, not to make peace, but for business, urgently, strategically. The kind of call you make when you realize the dominoes are falling and you're running out of hands to hold them up. Because if Trevor spoke, if he flipped, it wouldn't just be embarrassing, it would be final. And Piers, he smelled blood in the water. Every broadcast became a taunt. He didn't need to yell, he didn't need to name names, he let the internet do the heavy lifting. And just when Meghan's team thought it couldn't get worse, he leaned in, eyes locked on camera, and dropped the line that would haunt every crisis meeting for the next month. We haven't even gotten to the real part of the interview yet. Meghan's team didn't sleep that night. Lights stayed on in every room of her Monaco estate. Security pacing, cars arriving, lawyers walking in with folders and laptops. Inside, there was no panic anymore. There was exhaustion. The kind that comes after realizing a storm can't be stopped, only endured. Because when Piers said there was more, they believed him. Not because he's always right, but because this time, he was calm. Too calm. Like a man holding cards no one else could see, and loving every second of it. The phrase, "we haven't even gotten to the real part," became its own headline. Commentators didn't just report on it, they dissected it. Morning talk shows speculated on what real meant. Was it a full interview, a confession, a plan? Viewers didn't just want the next clip, they needed it. And Meghan's public image, already cracked, began to sink. Not because of anything she did that day, but because of what she might have done years ago. Even outlets that once defended her began pulling back. Quietly, carefully. Changing headlines, softening praise. waiting to see which way the wind would blow, because no one, not even her most loyal supporters, wanted to be standing next to her if another bombshell dropped. And just like that, the mood shifted. Piers didn't even have to speak anymore. Just his smirk, that knowing, satisfied grin on camera, was enough to drive Meghan's team to desperation. Reporters outside her home described the energy as chaotic, frantic, like a house trying to hold the walls up with tape and hope. And inside, the one question that hung over every whispered conversation: what if there are 20 more clips? Because here's the part no one wants to admit: Piers didn't need to win. He just needed Meghan to lose control. And she had. Publicly, loudly, emotionally. And in media wars, emotion is weakness. Every press statement became reactionary. Every denial sounded like fear. Every rebuttal looked like damage control. And the palace? Still silent, still watching, still sipping tea in the background as their former duchess unraveled. The phrase, outgrow the royal family, had now been dissected by every expert on earth. Was it ambition? Was it contempt? Was it revenge? Or was it, as many suspected, a blueprint all along? And then came the chilling final blow. As Meghan's team scrambled to send rebuttals, correct headlines, and chase down the source of the leaks, the rumor mill kept turning. Former friends, the ones who had been quiet for years, suddenly started trending. No interviews, no statements, just a few quiet follows, a few account reactivations, a few old photos reposted. Enough to send Meghan's staff into full-blown triage mode, because betrayal doesn't start with a loud announcement. It starts with silence. And that's what terrified her the most, because if this insider had flipped, who else might? If one person was willing to go on tape, what's stopping the next? By noon the next day, the narrative wasn't about Meghan's clip anymore. It was about who's next. And in that swirl of speculation, Trevor's name never left the trending feed. Not because he said anything, but because he didn't. And that's when Piers did it again. On his next broadcast, he leaned into the camera with that same sly smile and said only this: "We've only scratched the surface. No clip, no hint. Just the suggestion that there was more." And that was enough. Meghan's team collapsed into another cycle of panic. The public froze. And every journalist, influencer, and royal watcher around the world asked the same question: what's still hidden in those tapes? Because if the past week was the warm-up, what on earth is waiting in the main event?